It's time to complete the square. Yeah, we're gonna learn how to complete the square in this lesson. This is when would we use completing the square? Well, anytime you're trying to solve a quadratic, right? So anytime you're trying to solve something like that, right? But specifically, completing the square works if you whether you can factor something or whether you cannot factor something. Now, in this particular instance, if you look at this and you think about it for a half a second, and you've got some practice factoring, which you do at this point. I mean, if you're in my class or you're following along on YouTube or whatever else, you can factor this one. This one will factor. But we can also solve it by completing the square. We're going to do 3 different examples and kind of teach you how to do this. So if we're going to solve this with completing the square, I'm going to rewrite it down below so I have space. X squared plus 10x minus 11 equals 0. Okay, so this is in standard form, right? We have this equation in standard form. So the first step, this is very step-by-step procedural, which is nice if you're having a little bit of a hard time with factoring. This being just kind of you do this and then you do that and then you do the other thing and then, it always kind of works out the same way, may help you and you may like this. So once you have this in standard form, what we're going to do, the very, very first thing is we're going to move this C term over just like we would always do it. So I'm going to add it this time. So plus 11, I'm adding it, right, because this is negative. So to move it from one side to the other there. Now, you're going to notice when I write this, I'm going to leave a gap. Excuse me. Dry air or something. X squared plus 10x, and then I'm going to leave a space here, and then I'm going to put equals 11 because 0 plus 11 is 11. Now we need to fill this space. We need to stick something here. Okay, so what we're going to fill this space with is we're going to fill this space with b divided by 2 squared always. Okay, so we're talking about the same ABC that we've talked about before. So ABC, right? So we're going to do B divided by 2. So in this case, it would be 10 divided by 2 squared. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then squared would be 25. So we're going to put this and we're going to add 25. And if we do that to one side, we can't just do that randomly, right? We've got to do that on the other side as well. So we're going to add 25 over here. Okay, so now something interesting is going to happen on this side. I'm going to go ahead and write it all the way out, but I'm also going to tell you what it's always going to be, so you can kind of skip a step here, and I'm actually telling you to do that this time instead of you can do that. But I'm going to show you what's happening. So what you're going to do next essentially is you're going to factor the left side. Now it's always going to factor a certain way, but I'm going to go ahead and do all the puzzle pieces. So 2 sets of parentheses, x and x. We need 2 things that multiply to get this one and add to get this one. So 25 could be 25 and 1 or 5 and 5. Let's pick 5 and 5. If we do this here, 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10, so this works. You notice these are the same. 11 plus 25 is 36. You notice these are the same. They're always going to be the same because we're completing the square. We're adding a piece in here that is going to make this side, the left side, square. That's our entire goal for completing the square, is completing the square, making it a square. And so it's all, and here's the other thing. Here's how you skip straight to this line right here in this type of problem. You skip straight to this line by realizing that what you're going to do is you're going to always add, or sometimes subtract if it's negative, right? You're going to add this number, and it's always going to be the b divided by 2. It's always going to be the b divided by 2 right here, right? You still have to do the b divided by 2 squared to get what you're going to add on the other side out here, right? So, but that's always going to be the case on the inside. We'll see some more complicated examples here in a minute. Now we have x plus 5 squared equals 36. Now, what we're going to do now to get rid of the squared, if we want to get rid of a squared, what do? We square root both sides. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to square root the left side, and we're going to square root the right side. Now, remember, when we square both sides, what do we have? We end up with plus or minus. So this ends up being the square and square root cancel here. This and that cancel with each other. So on the left side, we have x plus 5. And on the right side, we have plus or minus. Square root of 36 is 6 plus or minus 6. All right, so we're still not quite done, right? So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Minus 5, minus 5. This cancels. So x is going to equal 2 answers, just like it always does. Either 2 answers or 1 answer if it's the same, or 0 answers. Well, 0 real answers. Actually, we're going to have a way where we can get we're always going to have an answer. You can either have 2 real solutions, you can have 1 real solution, or you can have 2 imaginary solutions, which we're going to see in example 3. We'll see that in a minute. Okay, so now you're going to do 6 minus 5, which is 1, and then you're going to do negative 6 minus 5, which is negative 11. So the answers to this are 1 and negative 11. Now, if we were to factor this up here, it would factor into 11 and negative 1 here for the factors, and then when you set those equals, flips the sign, all the things. You could factor it. You could take your time to do that, but that was last lesson, so we're not going to take the time to do that in this video. But there you go. There's our first example of completing the square. Let's do another one. Here is another one. So we're going to solve this by completing the square. Now, here's one more piece of information that I haven't told you yet. Okay, you're going to love this one. It's going to be great. And you're going to love it. I mean, there's fractions, so you might hate it, but you're going to be okay. You can do this. Fractions are not scary. Fractions are just numbers. It's okay. Fractions are friends, not food. Right? Okay, so let me get to what we're doing. So in order to complete the square, A cannot be anything except for 1. A has to equal 1. In this problem, A equals 2. So we've got 2x squared minus 7x plus 5 equals 0. We cannot have anything except for a 1 right here. So the first thing we need to do if A is not 1 is we need to make this a 1. How would we turn a 2 into a 1? Well, we're going to use the multiplicative inverse. In other words, we're going to divide by A. So we're going to divide by 2. We've got to divide everything by A. All right? So this just cancels, leaving us with x squared. And then we've got negative 2. No, what am I doing? Negative 7 halves x plus 5 halves equals 0 divided by 2 is 0. Right? So then we're going to complete the square. So step 1 of completing the square is to move our c over. So minus 5 halves, minus 5 halves. This cancels, leaving us with x squared minus 7 halves x space equals negative 5 halves, right? So now we need to find the green part here, right? So we've got to take 7 halves divided by 2 squared. Now, since this is a fraction this time, 7 halves divided by 2 is the same thing as times 1/2, right? So it may be easier to think about it that way if we've got a fraction, right? So 7 halves times 1/2 is 7/4 squared. When we square a fraction, we square the top and square the bottom. So it'd be 49/16. All right. So we're going to add 49/16 to both sides. Plus 49/16. And then this one, it factors into, and this time we are going to just skip to the end beat. It factors into x. Oh, I made a mistake. This should have been negative, right? Negative, because it's negative 7 halves. So it's x minus 7 fourths squared, right? Equals. Now this, you could use your calculator, or we could do negative 40 over 16 plus 49 over 16, so 9/16. Does that sound right? I better double check to make sure that's right. Let me sanity check for myself here. All right, so we're going to do negative 5 halves plus 49/16 equals that, and then somewhere I switch it to a fraction. Give me a half a second. Yeah, right here in front of my face. So negative 89/16, which is not what I got. Negative 89/16. Did I make a mistake? That'd be an, oh, I can see what I did wrong. It didn't work. I did make a mistake, but I made a mistake in the calculator because I put the negative and then I put parentheses because I thought I was going to need to put the fraction in parentheses, but I didn't, in fact, need to do that. So let's try again. So negative 5 halves over plus 49 divided by 16 equals that. Change it to a fraction. 9/16. Look, we were right. So equals 9/16. All right? Look at that. Those are both perfect squares. That's gonna make us a nice answer in a minute. Yay. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? We're going to take the square root of both sides to get rid of that squared. And when we take square root of both sides, we've got to remember that our answer is plus and minus, right? So on the left side, we get x minus 7 fourths equals, the square root of 9/16 would be, and it's plus or minus, I almost forgot what I keep reminding y'all of, plus or minus, square root of 9 is 3, and square root of 16 is 4, so this is 3/4. Right? So then we got to add 7/4 to both sides, so plus 7/4 plus 7/4. So x is going to equal, this cancels, positive would be 10/4. I'm going to end up reducing these. I'm going to go ahead and write this as we go. That's going to reduce to 5 halves, right? But we'll hit that in a second. Negative 3/4 plus 7/4. This time we're going to subtract. He'd sign the bigger one, so that's 4/4. So 10/4 and 4/4, which reduces to 5 halves, which would be 2.5 and 1. There we go. All right, one more example. One more. I don't know what I'm doing. It's fine. All right, we're going to solve this with completing the square. A is 1. It's great. So we're going to jump straight to moving the C over. So minus 22. This cancels, leaving us on the left side with x squared plus 8x space equals negative 22. We got to find the green part. So b divided by 2. So 8 divided by 2 squared. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Squared is 16. So we have to add 16 to both sides. So plus 16 plus 16. All right, so the left side is going to factor into x plus the b divided by 2. So that's 4 squared. Negative 22 plus 16 would be negative 4 plus 2 is 6. Negative 6. You might see where we're going with this. You might see what's going to happen. You might not. So let's keep going. Let's go. We're going to square root both sides. Square root both sides. Square and square root cancel, leaving us with x plus 4 on this side equals square root of negative 6. Square root of negative 6. A can't be reduced except for the fact that it's imaginary. Now you see why we learn these things. Now you see where it goes. So this is going to be I times the square root of 6. There's no perfect squares inside of 6 because the only one smaller than 6 is 4, and 4 doesn't go into 6 evenly. So that's as simple as that part gets. So now we've got to subtract the 4 from both sides. Minus 4, minus 4. So x equals negative. Oh, I forgot something, didn't I? I did. I finally forgot it. I forgot plus or minus. Negative 4 plus or minus I times the square root of 6. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Real part, imaginary part. That's as simple as that one gets. There it goes. And it's as simple as that one gets, keeping it in exact terms, right? We could get decimal equivalents. They would still be imaginary numbers. So, you know, all of that. That's it for that lesson. We'll see you in the next one. See you later. Have a good one. Adios. Goodbye.